When the great teacher Ramana Maharshi was dying, one of his students begged him, "Don't leave us." To which he replied, "Don't be silly. Where could I go?" Now, this is a demonstration, as beautiful a scene as it is. This is a demonstration of some language that can be problematic in non-duality. And the reason that it can be problematic is this: people will hear this, the uninitiated will hear this and think that Ramana Maharshi was speaking about something supernatural. He was not. He was obviously speaking to a close devotee. This was someone who was at his side while he was dying. This context is important. This person almost certainly had, at least it's reasonable to suppose that this person had deep understanding of non-duality themselves. And so the key point here, the key point is what Ramana Maharshi meant when he said, "I." What he meant was awareness. Now, you might find some specific cultural language within the Advaita Vedanta tradition. They often use the term self. That self being an ultimate self, a self that is not phenomenal, a self that is not the body, a self that is not even the mind, a self that is not sense data or memories or experiences. It's sometimes called the witness or the observer. But if you can find an experience of a witness or an observer, then that too is phenomenal. So in the end, in these kinds of inquiries, the answer always comes back to awareness, regardless of what that may be called in various cultures, in various traditions. When we talk about birth and death, the most tangible thing that we can say about it is that we're talking about a physical process. A baby is born when it separates from its mother. And a person dies when that physical system ceases to function. But there is zero evidence that awareness is generated by the human form. And one of my favorite questions to ask my students is this: does awareness appear within your body, or does your body appear within awareness? This question is to be answered in terms of direct experience. If you are tempted to try to reason it out or make sense of it, that's not the approach that I'm after. Rather, go to your direct experience. What is it like for you right now? Does awareness appear within your body, or does your body appear within awareness? And the follow-up question here is your body always present within awareness? For example, if I ask you to think right now of your left little toe, when was the last time that showed up in your direct experience? We don't spend much time experiencing our little toes. We don't think of the little toe so much as part of our identity. But perhaps when we think of other parts of the body, we do, for example, the face, the head. We could then talk about the functioning of the brain, the consciousness of sense data. We certainly spend a lot of time identifying with our sense of ourselves, our identity. But even this is actually not around very often in our direct experience. How often do you really spend thinking, I'm me? I will never forget a meditation that I had maybe 1 or 2 years into my dedicated practice. So I guess this was nearing 10 years ago now, 8 or 9 years maybe. I had, during this meditation, the experience of Dan-ness, a cocktail of sensation, thought, feeling that felt like me. And what I saw in that moment was that that cocktail of sensation arose. It came. And if it came, that must mean that it went. Again, this is all within direct experience. I realized in that moment that I had made an assumption my whole life. And that assumption was that that Dan-ness was somehow ticking along in the background of my life, and that I checked in on it from time to time. But in this meditation, I saw that to be an assumption. In my direct experience, that Dan-ness came and went. And so, like so many practitioners before me, I then asked the question, well, who am I when Dan-ness is not around? I encourage you to enjoy this same inquiry yourself. And if you make that inquiry sincerely enough, often enough, for long enough, however long it takes, it's different for everyone, then you will arrive at the same conclusion that Ramana Maharshi did. When he said, "Don't be silly, where could I go?" what he meant when he said I was awareness. Ramana Maharshi was someone who was so thoroughly free, who spent so little time engaged in egoic activities. We might even say he spent no time engaged in egoic activities. That when he said I, the only thing he could mean was awareness. But this is who we all are, regardless of how much time we spend engaged in egoic activities. And in our modern world, it's very important that we realize this. Because unless we want to go and live in a cave, or on the top of a hill like Ramana Maharshi did, it was later that devotees brought him down and built an ashram, a temple around him. In our modern world, very few of us can avoid engaging in egoic activity, so wouldn't it be a shame if we had to go and live in that cave in order to realize who we really are? Well, that would be conditional, wouldn't it? That would be saying, things must be a certain way in order for me to be who I am. Well, that doesn't make sense. And the good news is it's not necessary. Once you know what you're looking for, in other words, once you know how to recognize your true nature as awareness, then you see that this recognition depends upon nothing. I was just speaking to a viewer named Anwar, who I named incorrectly, it turns out, in one of my previous videos here. Screen name is Anwara, but the name is Anwar. Hello, Anwar. Good to see you again. And we were spending some time in the comments clarifying this recognition of awareness. We'd previously been talking about, must one be fully energized, well slept, in order to recognize awareness? Is it easier to recognize awareness when one is well slept and not tired? And where we came to was a very important point. On the relative level, it does seem like being well slept and mentally alert makes it easier to recognize awareness. There is no denying that a good night's sleep is helpful, regardless of what we're doing. But on the ultimate level, saying that we need anything to be any kind of way in order to be who we are, or in order to realize who we are, is false. And I said to our dear friend, Anwar, I said it's rather like saying that the sky must be clear in order for me to know that it's the sky. On the one hand, yes, it's delightful to see that bright neon blue when you look out the window. But on the other hand, the clouds cannot exist separately from the sky. In the same way, thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories, your sense of yourself cannot exist separately from awareness. So every phenomenon, every experience, whether we describe it as inner or outer, is an opportunity for you to recognize your true nature as awareness. In doing so, you realize that who you really are, what you really are, was never born and thus does not die. It is timeless. That which is born and dies only comes and goes within that non-dual basic space. And so just in the same way as your little toe vanishes from awareness, so too one day will everything you take yourself to be vanish, leaving no trace. And that's nothing to be worried about. That's just how it is. But non-referential, impersonal awareness continues just as it always has. You don't need to keep being you. Whilst you are you, the game is to recognize this nature. Stop taking yourself so seriously and get on board with the great mission of serving others, helping to facilitate this recognition in everyone, this recognition that they are beyond harm. If you enjoyed this teaching, do all the things that tell YouTube you'd like to see more of them. I upload every single day. And if you'd like to find out where you are in this journey of recognizing your true nature, take my 1-minute quiz. There's a link in the description below. I hope to see you again tomorrow.